So let's get one thing straight. The WWE women's roster is mediocre. At least Impact's is dependable with some semblance of identity. Some chicks you remember from old school Impact, and some that are just alright wrestlers. But like at least most of them are not that attractive. And women's division on AEW is like a working progress that continues to fuck up and drop their work, and then they have to redo all over again when they know that they're not getting anywhere with any of this stuff. That's technically what I can explain in just the first 35 seconds of how in the hell AEW's roster is women's roster. Primarily, their undercard females are just not getting over a mainstream audience when they have the platform, they do have the stars, and they do have the money to produce women like Melina, possibly Mickey James, Tessa Blanchard, or some women that could give them a bit more notoriety to be taken seriously, or some women that might be notable to be hot. Because when it comes to sex appeal, that actually sells. That gets your show to get talked about. Because they're going to be like, who are these hot chicks? And the other chicks kicking each other's ass. So you have that. You have a semblance of wrestling. You have the semblance of look. And when you have personality over most of it, I agree over with Jay Rand's video, what he puts over that sex sells, and especially over the female demographic, because most lesbians, bisexuals, or straight males, they are going to tune in whenever they see a physically and sexually appealing female or male in a minority. Most people want to see females, and that's going to get a primordial of male viewership, because who else watches pro wrestling than male viewers more than the females? And whenever you see hot females, more men are going to watch. That's going to boost over ratings. That's how I can transition 2 minutes into Kris Statlander sucks. Oh, because she's none of these things. Kris Statlander sucks in most ways that I suck at possibly doing math or any other part of college, but other than my personal problems. She is so bad. One of the reasons that Kris Statlander sucks is that she's just so unappealing as a gimmick that it just makes me not feel like this chick even invests on herself to get outside of to even get invested as a character. Because when most people want to see a character, especially extraterrestrial, or at least something that is beyond being a fucking human, you have to live up to that. You either have to behave a certain way or do certain personality clicks or behaviors that are going to click with that gimmick. She's supposed to have this alien gimmick, and now it's a sub running gag in the best friends group. I don't even know that's a freaking faction. She's just a jobber. Didn't she challenge Nyla Rose last year for the women's title? What even puts her serious? She just has a mean mug with a crap crescent moon face. The only people that want to smash her are just weirdo neckbeards. You don't see an above average looking decent guy that said I would take her home. No, because most of the above average decent guys left because they know wrestling is as gayer as it ever been. I apologize for saying stuff like that, but look how uncool it is if we're having under 200 something pound, 235 pound spot monkey, no selling, disinteresting characters that don't look like a portrayable, interesting person that I want to wear on a t-shirt or get it as an action figure. Be damned if I want to play it as a game at least, because at least nobody else could see it, because I can turn off the TV or change the channel or change to a new game, because nobody know who Kenny Omega is or anybody else on that AEW roster unless it's Christian or Big Show. And Big Show's not even wrestling. They have him as an official roster, even though he's technically a journalist. So they don't put him in the journalist section. That's kind of confusing upon itself. Come on. Tell me, like, the top 5 matches outside of the indies that makes Kris Statlander stand out. She does the boop thing. She comes around looking like Holly Holm got punched in the goddamn face. I've seen many female wrestlers that always don't look that appealing, but at least they have a gimmick that stands out, like Rosemary. I wouldn't say I would fuck Rosemary, but at least I can tell that she has a gimmick. She sticks through with it, looks interesting, dangerous, and and unpredictable. That's what I see when I look at Rosemary. I don't see that when I look at Abaddon, Kris Statlander, Hikaru Shida, even though she's talented, she's not somebody that I want to see be holding the women's title for majority of the calendar year. You cannot have that and think that should picture your division or picture who you want to be the top female in your company. That's a transitional champion for a Joshi mid-carder with no semblance of expanding her craft to get over on a mainstream American audience. Because that's what AEW is trying to foresee. Get more to the Americans because most of these guys are like minute in indie wrestling and Japanese pro wrestling. And that's as niche as you can produce it. Because nobody's ever going to be doing the finger boop other than if you're an awkward little blonde girl with glasses. And that possibly what was Kris Statlander. Most of her matches suck too, like bicycle kicks. Most of them are either memorial squash. She doesn't show any personality or different behavior, and most of them are just run off jokes. You haven't made her look like a badass or anything. Another thing is that she can't even live up over a freaking gimmick. She's an alien, so what? Just a part of her face is green. She doesn't walk a certain way. She doesn't talk a different way. She doesn't even make a made up language for herself that isn't exponentially bigger. It's just what looks to be a niche indie joke that's there for AEW fans that think way too hard of the indies. And I'm not saying this, like the indies are terrible. I've watched indie shows before, and some of them could be good and work upon to be grown to at least be on like a small TV network like MLW, or potential to be back on big TV networks like Impact. I'm not saying that it'll be back to mainstream like it was back in the 90s to 2000s, but at least it'll be in a somewhat watchable sense that okay, this is a pro wrestling show. I could watch it. Kris Statlander's none of those things that makes it coherently fine to watch pro wrestling or cool to be a pro wrestling fan. She is the exclusivity of why people tune out. And I'm not saying this to put the chick down, but do stuff that actually gonna make me compelled to watch you, either as a female wrestler or a freaking interesting character. You're not even attractive, so already getting that out the way, you need something to make you stand out other than wearing crappy face paint with some weirdo like ribbon strap on your thigh, and the only people theeing over you is anybody with like big thighs. They will go over. That's the only sex appeal. She goes for they go for below average big thigh chicks. They don't go for hot chicks. They don't go for women that are supermodel. So you're the bare. So she's the bare minimum. And I don't like burying people like this. But who really says that they want to watch Kris Statlander whenever they go to AEW? They hear that Mike Tyson's there. Oh, Chris Jericho's there. Oh, he was a former world champion. Uh, Big Show's there. Christian Cage. Uh, Cody Rhodes is there a bit, and Shaq. Not especially if you're supposed to be a character-driven gimmick, you need to stand out. Hell, I could say Santino is shit, but at least for that demographic, children liked it. He was like rip-off Zohan from like that Adam Sandler shitty movie, and people liked it. Like a Euro super hero comedian shit. Like people eat that up until Santino got jobbered out. Well, I think he only had like the IC in the U.S. title run, but at least he was over for that demographic. Just by God, like, tell me anything beneficial for Kris Statlander. These are the type of chicks that should not be getting pushes, but they'll put her as like potential contenders for a bit, put her in like a crap feud, and get her over women like Penelope Ford, Ty Conti, Anna Jay, Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Riho, and possibly Nyla Rose, even though I don't like her. But I can understand she's a monster male and a monster female in the roster, so I can understand the aspirations for some semblance of diversity. But these are just not the people you should be adding on over your show that only connect over a niche subject. Cody should be obviously trying to get over guys that either have experience on television or just have a definitive look that they can try to get outside fans and look a certain point that I can also like to see him wrestle. And these are not the type of things you get. You can either get hot chicks or you get good, decent looking wrestlers, or a woman with a character like Sue and Susie on Impact, or freaking Rosemary. I'm just saying. But that's it coming from me. Thanks for watching. Want to hear more of these burials of these wrestlers? Please subscribe. I also do reviews, but I don't even care, dude. I'll get more acceptable the more it gets. I'd rather go over a WNBA game than this. And hell, if I get at least over 3 likes, hell, I'm asking for the bare minimum here. 3 likes, and I'll do it. I'll review as soon as I don't even know when the season starts, but when the season starts, I'll go for, if I have a local team. I think it's called the New York Liberty. I'll watch it. I'll go over the statistics and the play-by-play a bit. I'll do it. Thanks for watching.